Welcome back to another Linux Gamecast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Jet Racing Extreme wants to test their demo. Well, they want you to do it because the developer can't be asked to install Linux. And Leadwerks has passed 10,000 paid users. But can it simulate? Nay, stimulate bricks? Question mark?
Valve's doubling down on two-factor authentication, and they're willing to hold you to it. And Wine releases version 1.8, thus saving Solid Stone's rap career.
AMD releases their Crimson software for Linux, and even though we expected nothing, we were still disappointed. The Open Pandora became much more interesting over the past week, if for nothing else than the impending cease and desist.
I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, doing this nightmare fuel, joined every week by our tame Canadian podcaster, Massus Fang. What's up, buddy? How you doing, guy?
Quote unquote tame.
My head is unflappy today because there was some accident with some super glue.
Hello! How y'all doing?
And together with Shotroom Dynamic, we do form just that little awesome bit of a cocaine Voltron. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a show for you this week. Before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. I'm going to get this ball organ rolling. Because after much doing and much trying and much WordPress, want to shoot myself. Now have
WordPressing is a verb.
It is now. We now have full HTTPS support for all the things on the Linuxy Gamecasties. It's brilliant. Tell your friends, tell a cat. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, that's there. Love it. It's awesome. What's up, Jay Baby?
Oh, nothing. I'm just reveling in the fact that all my traffic to LGC.com is now encrypted. My God, all that child porn I'm stashing on your server can finally be undetected. Hi, NSA. Pedro, what's up with you?
Well, since you brought up the NSA, not a hell of a lot's been going on this week. Nope. It's not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Oh, But you know who's really concerned about people compromising his account? It's the horse. You know, he's taken some extra security means for our Steamers update. Oh yes, Steam is trying to enforce their two-factor authentication. This is a story from TechSpot.com. The links to all these stories in our lovely show notes. Essentially, there is a 3-day hold on any trade that you make through the Steam community, unless both the users involved in the trade have had their two-factor authentication turned on for more than a week. This generally implies that the people on their accounts are the people who created the accounts in the first place. So that's good that they're trying to ramp up some more mandatory security features. And I mean, if you don't have Steam Guard enabled, even just having like the email notification to have you enter a code is better than nothing.
No, I mean, I think it's really good. I mean, my first thought was like, yeah, that's good. My second thought was like, you need to accept my Google Voice number because you're not getting my real one. Deal with it. But you absolutely have to love the links that Valve will go through to avoid improving customer support.
Oh yeah, for sure. You got to nip those dumb customers in the butt. Actually, they have a little added incentive too, because you can get between 5 and 35% off on the Steam Marketplace if you have TFA enabled between now and December 16th.
But P-Man, this pretty much just kind of affects the CS:GO type people that are always trading their skins and their guns.
There's some CS:GO knife skins which go for like $90 a pop.
Oh my God, you can have Nipponese folded katanas instead of regular knives.
Yeah, it's just a skin. It doesn't change how much damage the knife does or anything. It's just literally a skin. It's stupidly expensive. And some people will go to hell and beyond to try and hijack someone's account just to get that freaking skin. So, yeah, Valve's pushing their two-factor authentication or 3-factor authentication because you have the Steam Guard, and now you have the Steam Guard mobile authenticator.
That's not 3-factor, though. If you have the authenticator turned on, then you don't get the email notifications, Pedro. Learn to count! Up next!
Release Storm United! Update, new features. You remember these fantastic people Well, I like to call them the asshats who neglected their Linux build for over 3 months. Yes, these guys, the ones charging $19.99 for a game that will be free to play. And I'm not saying that they already have a backing for their game and early access is just complete icing. But, yeah.
Double lip.
Yeah, it kind of is. They got a couple new things.
Mostly positive.
They're talking about Storm United. It's really one of the first-person shooter games that we saw available on the Steams, built with the Unreal Engine 4. And we did a early access, busted access players of it, and in all honesty, the only bug that I kind of wish they would fix is, because, we bought a 4-pack of it. We spent the monies on it. They haven't fixed the bug where there's no bots, it's online only, and the server's a complete nope sauce. But after saying all that, Frenchie and I, Thursday, I guess that was the Thanksgivings in the Americas, and I don't know. Yeah, and all that business, and that kind of rock and roll. We played for a little bit. It's playable, but it's nothing new. It's nothing original, and it's not going to fucking melt your eye sockets out of your head holes.
It was playable before they broke it at least. But I'm glad that they brought it to some sort of functional state. They added a new hacker item though, which they call the energy pad. And once it's placed on the ground, you step on it. And let me stop you right now. There. Once you step on the hacker pad, you get sent back in time to go fight Kung Fuhrer. Pixel Beam. I just gave you your Game of the Year idea. You're welcome for free. That one's on me, buddy.
Yeah, but, that's the thing. This game, according to Steam charts, has 5 players currently online with a 30-day average of 1.4. Yeah. No. $20 to maybe have a chance at running into one other player? Fuck no.
And with Steam refunds, that just goes completely out the window for these guys. Oh yeah, I'll try it out for $20 for like 15 minutes, then return it, and if I'm interested, I'll play it once it goes free to play. But it never will, because it's going to be in early access forever.
Well, it's currently 75% off, so $4.99, maybe.
$5, maybe.
Yeah, that's $4.99.
Or again, wait a couple months.
It's like me with The Witcher 2.
All right. It's over 9. Well, actually, it's over 10,000. Leadwerks game engine reaches 10,000 paid users. This is a thing. But more importantly, Jordan, do you remember that little thing where, you could, kind of bypass Steam Greenlight and
with their Leadwerksy game launcher mahoozits for games that are so bad they can't even get greenlit.
Yeah, well, that's now available for Linux. I know, joy of fucking joys. Everyone, celebrate. This is the time. You can now experience the atrocities that have been committed. But I know what you're saying. Well, then you're giving this engine a hard time. Well, all right. I kind of felt bad about that. So, I decided to, Josh, a friend of the show, we like him, a developer of the engine.
Herr Clint.
Herr Clint. Sent us some keys, so I decided to send a key over to our Senior Vice President of Australian game development for LinuxGameCast. The person the person responsible for Brick Simulator, and he had a couple of choice words, P-Man.
He had some very, very strong words to say about that. It's like, he's got some bullet points, like, huge bug that prevents spawned SCG objects from colliding properly. This is a known issue that they still haven't fixed. Bare Bones doesn't really describe this turd. Dude, come on. How about you tell us how you really feel? And it generally feels and looks like a Windows app running under wine. Yeah, that's bad.
There was a couple the biggest one I saw was definitely missing huge amounts of features that the tutorials use, because apparently it's not the C++ Pro version.
Oh no, you need the Pro version to get C++.
Clint gave us like 5 keys for this, and they're all like the lowest tier fucking thing. So thanks, Josh.
The indie version. Yeah.
We appreciate putting those years of computer science skills of ours to excellent use.
But there's a couple of things, Mr. Foxdog, he had to say about this. And all in all, it's an absolute fucking nightmare to use, and not even worth the sell price. You can only have one scene open at once. You cannot select multiple objects at once. Do not, I repeat, do not put anyone else through this hell unless they really deserve it.
Van, why would you do that?
For comparison, the original Brick Simulator was
on
Godot, and he did that in like 40 minutes. This took him roughly 4 on.
So the freeware tool is better than the paid product. That's a bit brilliant. Josh, I really hope you're paying attention to this, because you got some issues with your product there. You should probably nip those in the bud.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to sell an engine through Steam. That alone is already a bit of a grueling task. If the engine doesn't perform, no one's going to use it.
And Ven brings up an excellent point in the show notes about how Unreal Engine 4, Unity, Godot, they're all free, and they provide infinitely better experiences than this. And I mean, we could really make a contest out of this. Whoever can make the best game in Godot gets a free copy of Leadwerks to see how good they actually have it in Godot.
That's like hell. That's the definition of a poison present.
I know, right? It's
right.
Brilliant. It's time to get some tail spikes on, though. This is Land of Lamia. It is a game. It's a puzzle game where you control two people play.
It's a game.
Well, I mean, it is a game. The floor is made of lava. The game with the most abysmal controls and no camera control ever. Like, if you touch the non-pathed area, you die instantly.
Yep.
You control 2 characters with 1 analog stick. One moves faster than the other unless you press a button. It initially reminded me of that game, Tale of Two Sons, but that game actually had an interesting mechanic. This is just pure and unadulterated frustration. Now that, and of course, you need that Linux 1010 or later.
I was about to bring that up. I mean, were you running Linux official 10.10?
I'm sorry, I was actually running Linux 9.9.
That's your issue.
9.9.9!
Yeah, the reason that I actually sent the developer an email about this game was because, I was looking at the video and, it's kind of like A Tale of Two Sons. But then I played it, and I'm going to have to play some more of it, but it doesn't look anywhere near as compelling as some people have described A Tale of Two Sons to be. So I think they need some more work to be put into this. It
revolves around the characters of Lily Thomas. Controls whatever. I mean, this looks like Walking Simulator 2015. It's currently 15% off at 4.2 for wet, stinky cashes. I guess we have keys for it.
Yeah, it is cheap. Yeah.
There's no Mexican Armada with tomato weapons either. I mean, that was the biggest disappointing thing there. But the moon, it comes crashing into Earth. And what are you going to do then?
Yeah, this was the other game that the developer sent us some keys over this week, which is One More Dungeon. It is as described on the little blurb there, it is a first-person shooter roguelike with procedurally generated levels and pixel art graphics. So if you're taking shots for every time...
a shittier-looking ziggurat.
I was going to go with Wolfenstein, but all right.
Yeah, Wolfenstein, Hexen, the original Heretic. Yeah, it looks a lot like those games. So, yeah, in a way, it's kind of like a worse-looking ziggurat, but my first reaction when I looked at the screenshots was like, oh, for fuck's sake, another Minecraft-looking game?
Yeah, 30% off, $349.
Yeah, once you get into it, it's not actually not that bad.
Either. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's done in Unity, so, I mean, it's a click export, but Unity 2D stuff works very, very well. And it's pretty solid as far as those sorts of shooters go. So, I mean, if you're interested and you're bored, pick it up. You won't regret spending $3 on it.
It's pretty cheap.
Yep.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at that, and I didn't get a chance to cash in those keys and give it a go. But that's definitely a thing. But so is this. This is Jet Racing
Tame to Power.
Extreme.
Oh wow. That canyon gave me some pod racer flashbacks.
Oh, man. It's good times. I mean, you look at it, it's brilliant. We've kind of talked about this on and off. I actually picked it up when it was on Hellicell, the full version for like a quid. Mostly positive with 936 reviews, and I'm guessing though all of those were gift keys. Currently 25% off at $374, but there is now a Linux demo from the developer. And I quote, in the forum, Morgans, can anyone confirm if the game is working on Linux and Mac? ?
And another top graduate from the Click Export School of Porting.
It's literally what he
Pedro,
did.
both of you just need to calm down. You just cannot expect a developer to drive all the way down to the Linux store and pick up the Linux box TM. I mean, those things are like $3,000.
You also have to pay for it in Linux dollars, too.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, those Penguin dollars, they're not cheap. The conversion rate is completely off the charts.
Try it. I'm not going to completely shit on it because this just kind of came out as like, well, it's a mobile game and we're going to try something. Look, it uses Arch Linux. Arch! And,
one of the review
of course,
things
there
up
had
at
to be
top.
an Arch user saying that it works.
well,
Yeah.
outside of the horrible
He
video
tested it
encoding, I mean, this video's pixelated as balls. Here's the thing. I mean, I kind of talked to him. It's like, okay, they do not use SDL2 for their X input. So it has the Unity screen and note, which means that it's spray and pray controller mapping. So you can't really rebind anything and do all that. But they have, over the last 6 months, went from, it's like they are genuinely trying and or being receptive to turning this into an actual game. So try the demo. Give it a spin. It's priced to sell for a demo, and it's only a couple hundred megajoules. So yeah. All right, good enough.
There's one review up at top from the press that really, really made me scratch my head. Jet Racing Extreme will make you want to stuff a rocket in your exhaust. Not sure that's something you wanna tell people that it makes you want to do. I'm just saying. I'm not a car guy. I don't understand how cars work, but I'm pretty sure you don't want to.
It's magic, Jordan. It's magic.
All right,
It's
a kind of magic. All right.
Ooh, son, that's not
But
a good
yes.
sign.
Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, it was actually mixed when I put this link in the notes. But yeah, this is Might and Magic, which coincidentally is also what I call my testicles.
Flash.
Yep.
He admires them from that box that Nori keeps them in.
This is a browser game. When I first tried it, it wouldn't even load. Whenever I click play, I just get a blank screen. Why? Because it needs 32-bit Flash. It's a Chromium wrapper. This is basically the Chromium browser set to run a browser game on Steam. And when I did some digging into it, this has actually been going on for a while. The porting method, as we'll call it, is called nw.js. So there's already a history for that. There was already a game out for Linux that did this exact same thing, which had the exact same problem, which was called the Settlers Online. I even left you a link in the show notes for a particular thread in the Settlers Online forums on Steam. But I think that's maybe a good thing that the game didn't load for me, because people are already review bombing it, saying that it's loaded with microtransactions up the wazoo. So yeah.
Oh, it's a browser game. What do you expect? At least it's not like that chess game that just used Steam to direct people to their sign up form on their website. I still don't know why. Like, I get you can have games in the browser now. It's a wonderful technology. SMJS exists, allows you to basically run your game on any platform because it runs in the browser.
WebGL.
But why would you? Yeah, WebGL. Why are you trying to sell this on Steam though? That does not make much in the way.
The only
of
thing that
sense.
has kind of bugged me is, correct me if I'm right, but you pretty much have to have Chrome installed in order to run this ?
No.
Yeah.
It comes with the Chromium, like a very barren package of Chromium in the game
workaround
already.
requires you to install Chrome.
Yeah, it doesn't really, unless of course you want to use the Pepper Flash, which comes included with Chrome on Linux. You can use that to get this game to run, which was basically what I did. And as soon as I saw the first thing, that whenever I clicked the play button, the very first thing I saw was a little pop-up saying, "Oh, buy this now. This is on sale for real money." No, we're not having that.
Gotta get those star chips, man. How else are you gonna afford your radio-controlled drones? Oh, sick transitions.
Speaking of that, it's RC Simulation 2.0. I saw this show up on the Steam store, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta have that. So I sent the dev an email, and he did come back and send us 3 keys for this. It's already a far better early access game than many supposedly finished games. Legends of Aetherius comes to mind. But yeah, it is a Unity game, and all things considered, this game still needs a lot of work because the cars are far too fast for the tracks that they're supposedly trying to navigate.
Look at the price on Brad, son.
Yeah, it is pretty steep. It's like $15.
Yeah. 25% off currently, $11.24 wet stinky caches, and I don't even have to take a guess. OS SteamOS, but this is a Unity title.
Yes, it is.
I did install it and I tried it. Just like, yeah, it's a motoring game. And I was like, okay, I don't care, even if it's RC shit. Controller kind of worked. Some buttons kind of worked. And then I accidentally ran like my RC car into a corner. Then the guy kind of walked over to reset it. Then he like flipped out Goat Simulator and ragdolled on it. It's like, okay, maybe that was an issue. Then I tried it again in, what would you call it? Practice mode. And the guy was stuck riding on top of his car the entire time.
Oh, nice.
Okay, I did have the physics of the guys that run over to like pick up the car and reset it. Them flipping out and them just dropping like they had been shot or something. But the riding on top of the car, that never happened to me. But yeah, it is kudos on the developer because this is a one-man team. For getting not just RC cars, but like quadcopters and boats and a bunch of stuff in one game. One really barely functional Unity game, but it's still in early access, so it gets a pass on that one for now.
It is, but I mean, I'm just going to be honest. We might throw some chairs at this next week. It is coming out next week, December 1st, and I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you. I kind of think it needs some work, Brad. Yeah.
It's not
ready. But if you folks want to remote control us, you can head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/LinuxGameCast. Oh my God, we're at $150 an episode. You people are insane.
Ooh.
You have no standards whatsoever. Are we kidding? We love you guys. We're actually going to launch a new show very, very soon. LinuxGameCast. Weekly, daily, Wednesday. It's a longer form discussion show about general Linux stuff as opposed to gaming specialized stuff like what we talk about here. It's going to be good. It's going to be Pedro, Ven, and a rotating guest of the week. We also got some new backers that made that possible. Steve S., Jon S. R., and Artheron, who may or may not have been donating before, but you're donating now, and that's all that matters. Thanks a lot, you guys. You're awesome. Speaking of which, tell them about Brad.
Okay, we hit the Left for Brad 2 last week at 135, so now that we're doing 135 wet stinkies per show, Tuesday we sat down and did it?
Wednesday, usually.
Tuesday or Wednesday? We recorded
or Monday. Yeah.
It was a day that ended with a Y. All right, you mental juggernaut. Hush.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
All right, Rabot. We recorded the first 4 episodes with Empty. You might know him as the T-Hand from Chat Realm, the guy who runs Chat Realm Dynamic.
A leprechaun.
Yes, he's awesome. And really, that's the only way to do it is because it's kind of episodic. You have 4 zones. So we did that. All 4 recorded, and they're going to be doled out. We're not doing the Netflix model just because it's a big-ass fucking files I got to upload. So we're doing those 1 a week, and they're there. They're going to be there. It's going to be awesome. The next 4, we're probably going to have Sandman return and shoot off 4 of that, then Frenchie after that, and we're up for anyone. So, I mean...
Yeah, there's a thread on Chat Realm if you want to sign up for that. If you're a
Patreon and you're part of the SS, the Super Squad, you can jump in. There's a thread on there. Put your name in there. You don't need a web camera for your web face. You just need a microphone or a headset or something like that. And
for your web face.
For your website.
And not a whole lot of background noise, preferably.
Or alternatively, full-on rave going on in the background.
Yeah, that works too.
Yes. Glow sticks don't show up on game recordings. But up next, AMD gets red in their genital regions. Have some painful discharge that we got to talk about.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the news. And in true LGC tradition, we start out with some drivers. This week, not NVIDIA's, but AMD's. They have released
Crimson.
Yeah, the Crimson software, whatever, whatchamacallits. And
Oh shit, son, Furry X support.
Yeah, it has the Furry X and the R9 Nano, which is the single most pointless card that AMD has ever released. But yeah, we're not talking about that. They have new drivers, and it still needs the GIMP help files, and the only things that they fixed were the stuttering when running GLX gears with VSync enabled, and intermittent mouse cursor corruption. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's still no Xorg 1.18 support. There's no support for 4.0 or greater kernels. I mean, this is par for the course for AMD, but come on.
Wait a minute,
oh
Jordan.
My God!
Jordan.
What?
I was just reading on the Phronix the other day that they support the 4X kernels now.
Well, they're wrong, because
they're wrong.
It says it on the freaking driver page. 319.
319, up to 319.
No,
Yeah.
kind of good laugh because they said, when they were talking about the big issues that were fixed, one of them was stuttering when running GLX gears. Now,
I know that's how they test their drivers, man. Just do the gears spin? All right, we're good. Yeah,
ship it.
3D.
And I was kind of worried about that. And I was like, well, what's the under-over in the singular AMD Linux driver developer? It could be a developer. Either way, it doesn't matter. Does that person know that Steam has been released for Linux, or are they still testing this against SuperTux code?
I think they're actually writing their drivers on a Commodore 64, cross-compiling them on that, and then seeing if it'll run GLX gears. But
that
I mean,
explain the fact that it only supports the 319 kernel.
If you look at the benchmarks that have been released after these Crimson drivers got launched, there's like no performance increase at all, like 1 FPS at most, and it's ridiculous. If you're gonna talk all this shit about how it's gonna bring shit up to par with the NVIDIA drivers, at least attempt to live up to that. Instead, they slap their new fancy QT GUI on their old shitty drivers.
Pedro, tell me if I'm right, Pedro, but I've been told by AMD fanboys that AMD drivers have always worked perfectly under Linux, and there's never been an issue. So why is this such a big deal all of a sudden? Answer, Cameron.
I have been using AMD or ATI back in the day chips under Linux since 2005, and no, they're anything but perfect under Linux. I mean, the drivers have been hit or miss with every release, and until the open source drivers actually started supporting like S3TC texture compression, I could not for the life of me play Ogre 3D games until a very short while ago when I decided to get a GTX 970 Strix, which then turned out to be only 3.5 gigs, but that's a discussion for another time. NVIDIA sucks too. It's not just AMD, but yeah. The thing is,
Matrox!
With the Crimson software package, you were supposed to get a new control center. It was supposed to be the Crimson thing. Mm-hmm. It's made in Qt. It looks pretty. We've all seen the screenshots of it running on Windows. And in Linux, with the new version of the drivers, which is supposedly the new software Crimson Edition, whatever you want to call it, it still has the old AMD Catalyst Control Center. That shit is so out of date and so bloated, you have to wonder, what the hell is AMD doing?
Well,
I mean they're already going down the drain.
They're themselves off, clearly.
There's definitely one thing I want to say, because for once, I would like AMD to pull a summer and get it shite together and release something that competes with NVIDIA on the Linux. I mean, more specifically, I want them to compete in the arena of gaming. Yes, I said gaming, so every fucking mother one of you right now typing the hate mail, but open source drivers, YOLO 420 swag. No, calm your collective tit organs, because I mean, I want buying options. I mean, for my next purchase after the 9 series NVIDIA, I mean, they've shown that they can, with the Fury X, can kind of hold their own on the Windows side against what NVIDIA is offering. And I want that choice back in my life organ, J-Baby.
Well, I mean, they would have to actually understand OpenGL and get their shit together regarding that. But speaking of the open source drivers, we have a brand new Xorg Video FX86, XF86. That's X386 for you new kids on the blocks. Video AMD GPU, which means they finally have X drivers for the, not the Southern Islands. My brain is blanking on the Fiji, Tonga, Kurzio, Iceland, and Stony.
It is still
architectures. Yep. So I mean, they've really just taken the R600, the AMD Xorg drivers, ripped out all the non-compatible stuff, added hooks for the AMD GPU driver, and shipped it on its way. So newer hardware support in X for the open source drivers is certainly nice. Yeah. But I want to see how this actually squares off with the Crimson. I asked Sandy to do that earlier, and he never got back to me. So I gotta go stick my boot in his butt.
As much as I personally wanted the open source drivers to be on par with FGLRX, with all the problems that FGLRX has, whenever it worked, it did provide better performance than the open source drivers ever did. It's still the case to this day. Yeah, the open source drivers are more stable, and this new one does bring support to the R9 III series and the Fury X and the R9 Nano, up to par with the Radeon SI and the R600 cards, if for no other reason than they literally just forked the old driver to work with the new blob, basically.
Indeed.
Well, maybe they can use it to crunch some numbers.
Oh yes, no, they've released now. Well, this was. I don't think this was actually AMD. This is a community member. He released a GCN assembler for AMD, which means you can write code that takes advantage of that ultra powerful Radeon architecture with those GCN cores
GCN
to perform your
OpenCL. Yes, basically.
Yeah, to pretty much do parallel processing under Linux using AMD.
Well, it's definitely going to be a fucking thing. Giving people alpha access directly to the hardware, you just might want to pull up the biggest piece of fucking popcorn you can imagine.
Cards catching on fire?
Good thing. I mean, yeah, maybe, question mark.
I'll let you write your
It's
OpenCL
amazing,
kernel.
though, how this thing only showed up after CUDA support was available.
It's not even CUDA support though, Pedro. It's CUDA cross compilation. So you puke it, you drop in your CUDA code, and it barfs out whatever the hell this thing produces, or what you're supposed to write on this stuff. And I mean, you're not going to see any real applications for gaming on this. This is purely for OpenCL, parallel compute stuff for Radeon cards.
Yes, this is inline assembly, microcode, all this fun stuff. So. You never know
if you're
how
writing a Bitcoin miner.
You never know how it's going to boil out, though. So we did need to mention it, but there's no reason to whine about it.
Oh, yes. Wine 1.8 is out, and they have a whole litany of fixes, including some interesting ones for Desura on Windows. This was...
Finally.
What was it? Oh, yeah. 38427. Desura Client 02 crashes on implemented function in some DLL. So I got two questions, man. Number one, who is using the Windows version of Desura under Wine? And number two, who the fuck is still using Desura?
Stupid people, Jordan. Stupid people.
People who like their developers not getting paid for their work. Also, they fixed some rhyming Russian dictionary functionality, so that works. And Solid Stone can finally take off with his rap career and leave us plebs behind. But we're not going to see this till next year, or if you have a crossover subscription. But we're all waiting on DirectX 11 support. That's what we want to hear about.
Yeah, everyone is just basically waiting on DirectX 11. I mean, there's a bunch of new games out which only support DirectX 11. They don't even have the D3D9 backend, so yeah. We all want it.
I don't know. I mean, I was definitely looking like in the show notes, and Pedro was like, "Oh, well, isn't everyone waiting on DX11 support?" And I was like, "Not virtual programming."
Oh yeah, they're hoping that crashes and burns.
Otherwise, they'll go out of business.
That's their cash cow, yeah. Without that, they're not doing too well. But speaking of cash cows, I hear these Open Pandora guys are just rolling in it.
Yeah, they're not exactly rolling in it, and they might have just poked the bear, so to speak. Yeah, it's Diablo 2. It's running on the open Pandora. One very well, let's just say he had a lot of free time on his hands. He got Diablo 2 sort of ported. They have that assembly decompiler to port stuff onto the open Pandora, and this guy kind of took that to a whole new level and ported Diablo 2. Now, this is great, and it makes the open Pandora a hell of a lot more interesting, and I kind of want one on my hands right now just so I can try this. But this is only interesting until Blizzard serves them with a cease and desist.
Oh yeah, no, because Blizzard is super great about people wanting to play their games under Linux, and will totally not screw people over in order to enforce this rule.
No.
But I mean, it's interesting because we're seeing more and more complicated games like Diablo 2 be ported through this binary assembly cross compilation method. I'm curious to see if we can get some other older games on the open Pandora, because that would be kind of neat, especially if you can bring that technology over to, say, Android, because that would give a lot more gaming options for fine folks on Android. These Android tablets are are even more powerful than those PCs of the day, so it's all good.
Yep. And
but
let's talk about syphilis.
To make the open Pandora interesting.
Syllepsis.
Syllepsis. Wildfire Games, an international group of volunteers. You imagine a world. You remember that voice? That was me doing their original trailer. It's out. It is Alpha 19. They get a couple of new things in there, Jay, baby.
They do. SDL2 is now enabled by default in Linux. So things will just auto-magically work, which is wonderful because SDL2 makes everything better. It's just like cocaine. They've also added some victory conditions for destroying all enemy units and destroying all enemy buildings. And one of the interesting new features, and the cause of the namesake of Syllepsis, is you can now capture buildings and siege units. So that is some interesting sauce. The game's getting a lot more depth. And this is the best-looking open-source game out there, period.
It is completely open source from good friends at Wildfire. And they've been making progress on that. I remember when they first launched it, and it was like moon technology to create a game between two people because you had to manually set up some config files. It has come so far, and it is pretty saucy, baby.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that really caught my eye in their changelog was under the graphics and user interface bit. They have a visual replay that says, rerun a game and understand what took place in real time. What this means is basically you get to see the whole game, and even though
you get to watch how your ass gets kicked.
Yeah, even though you were looking at your units at any given point, you can see what the opponent was doing at that time, and that's pretty good. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, it is a real-time strategy game, and that doesn't really sit.
And if you're wondering about it, maybe you never heard about it. I mean, it is a decent real-time strategy that starts at not AD, and it's completely priced to sell, as in free. Go pick that business up. It's at playzad.com, and you
links to all this in our show notes.
It's brilliant.
It's good stuff.
You can probably find it for any type of Debian system. Of course, it's going to be in the Arch. And
there's probably some copper repo for Fedora available as well.
All right.
Also, it compiles in like 2 minutes. Actually, no, it's available via Yum on Fedora anyway, so you can just pick that up over there. But
DNF
up
nowadays.
Next, we swing our dongs around. So many dongs coming out your nose. It's fantastic. It's too hot for Twitch.
They're to Lucius.
Children, today we finally solved the mystery of what would a priest want to stick up our butts. We're throwing chairs at Lucius II, or Lucius II. It's from Shiver Games, built on the Unity engine for around $20 or 20 local currencies. And what is it? The story of Lucius II continues right where the original Lucius left off, where you can't play it under Linux. Lucius emerges from the lone survivor of the burning wreckage of his parents' once called home, unscathed from the ruthless slaughter that he had unleashed. In short, it's Antichrist Simulator. You run around, kill some people in Rube Goldberg-esque methods. It's good stuff. Faces the CHAIRQUISITION. Can the devil survive the holiness that is the chairs? One chair means that it's garbage. Two chairs means that it's meh. Three chairs means that it's pretty good. And four chairs means that's amaze balls. We also got a categories of doom mixed with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. If you haven't seen one of these CHAIRQUISITIONs before, I don't blame you. Let's kick this off then. Did it make with the working?
Over here in Vinland on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS 980 powered 4K displayed octo-core box of business. Well, let's just go ahead and say this, Brad. This critter genuinely struggles to hit 50 FERPs at 1080p on high. There is something above high, but it's a bit useless, and so you can completely forget about playing it at 2160, aka 4K. Two of us here, we have 4K monitors, we have 980s, and it's really not that playable, because if you kick it up to that resolution, you get between 19 and 20 FERPs. Then again, I only have a 8150 overclocked to 4.0 gigajoules with the 980, and I'm guessing that people with Skylake CPUs do not have such an issue. So I kind of got to give it 3 chairs, Brad.
Well, you know, Ven, you would have lost that bet.
Oh, man.
I mean, at 4K, you get the ultra cinematic 24 frames a second. If you knock that down to 1080p on their max graphical settings, you get around 37 at most at 1080 on an i7 6700K. Again, with a GTX 980. I didn't understand, Captain. I'm giving it all I can, and she runs like shit. But, you know, you start it up, and it does run. It doesn't show you the Unity screaming of nope, despite it being a Unity game. So, I mean, it gets 3 chairs on that regard. It's not going to get it anywhere else.
It works, I guess, on the Fedora 23 FX 8370E overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz with the GTX 970 Strix from Asus. It works. I had to put the graphics up to mental. That's literally what the game calls it. Otherwise, I'd get texture flickering all over the place. The FERPs, while in game, go anywhere from like 30 to 80 in 1 second. It's like you're walking down a hallway. Yeah, we're having some 80-something FERPs. The moment you turn into the door, 30. No, we're having none of that. And it's so bad, like that variance is so bad that it actually affects the game's physics. Like NPCs will start walking slowly when the frame rate dips. It's really bad. So it gets 2 chairs from me.
All right, so that is 2 whole chairs to mix with the working. Up next is the shiny and the sounds. Ven, how are those dongs beautifully rendered? You tell me.
Wrap your mind around it, ladies and gentlemen. 15 FERPs for the cutscenes. I mean, you gotta wonder, did the developers actually test this on Linux? I mean, you get like 3 ways of looking at this. Either they just hit export and have at. They tested on Linux, and they said, oh, that's complete shit. Ship it. Or they're just like, yeah, actually, Satan. I mean, maybe Satan shipped this.
My money's either on the first or the third one.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
that guy owes me $5 anyways. So.
And the biggest reason is because the game constantly launches with what you will see as cutscenes. It's like story narrative for this game. That usually ranges somewhere between 15 and 24 FERPs. It's kind of fucking miserable because you're just like, I want to learn the story bits and all that. But when it comes to graphics, you do have the standard Unity slide bar of graphical asshattery, which is a visual representation of the Unity screen of Nope. You know, that little pop-up screen is like, do you want good, ultra, beautiful, impossible, and all that? However, anything below high will look full metal N64 quality. Yes, please, sir. Could I bother you for a cup of anti-aliasing? Seriously, yes. This is coming from Captain I'm okay with the Jaggies. I mean, I'm kind of good with that. It was so jaggy. I was like, just give me something. And then there's the cocks. We can't show this because this is a family-friendly show and LGC cares and all that.
Manson family-friendly, am I right?
But there's quite a discoverable cock mechanisms in this, and there's a whole other Doctor Who episode available. But, you know, at the end of the day, I don't want to call this game fugly. But even on high, it is kind of a bit meh. Meh without the ability to rub some Vaseline on the lens organs. Now, when we come to the sounds, they're intermittent and annoying. Listening to a defib charge on loop. Not necessarily my idea of a good time. But fortunately, that is broken up when the game randomly decides to play background music, because that's just whenever it fucking feels like it. But you gotta mix all that in with the subpar noises made by the people that you kill to death. And you're gonna end up with those two chairs.
So many graphical issues. This game has problems trying to shadow, especially in the tutorial. You go into like the flaming hellscape, and there are just like blank black polygons just missing. Oh, that's supposed to be shadow. We can't render that. That's too advanced. The models look like they belong in an early Xbox 360 game. The small objects look like they belong on a PlayStation game. It's like if you are able to inspect something up close, it looks like shit. I mean, the voice acting is all right. Pedro will go on about the inconsistencies, but at least, you know, the people sound like they actually knew their lines before reading them. The opening cinematic, it's really, really nice that they outsourced that animation to Canada, because those people have flappy fucking heads. And that brings us to the sound design. Like Ven said, you get random fucking sounds that pop up everywhere. Defibrillators, radios. There's that one mental patient who keeps going, like at the beginning of that one Anthrax album. It's super annoying because it's just like, shut up. Really annoying. The music is just kind of there. The radio will just start randomly playing, and I could not for the life of me tell you what that song was, because it doesn't really, you ignore it. It doesn't matter. That's not the hallmark of good sound design. Good sound design is like Alien Isolation that makes you constantly fucking paranoid. Yep. So wrapping this up, this gets 2 chairs because at least it worked poorly.
Unholy graphical glitches, bad man. Yeah, it's
Flat
pretty
man.
bad. It's
racist.
It's Jordan already said it. It's like during the tutorial, if you look at a certain object in a certain angle, there'll just be a whole bunch of black pixels all around it because the game just can't fucking render it. But then you slightly twitch the mouse to either side and oh, hey, there it is. Yeah. And while the voice actors seem to know what their lines were, it's very clear that they were all in different rooms and using different microphones when they were recording their lines. The very first dude that kind of mumbles some stuff on the very first level when you walk into his room, I had to mute everything else from background noise, music, whatever. Otherwise, I could not, for the life of me, make out what the hell he was saying. The paper cutout cutscenes, like Jordan already mentioned, they were great until they started to attempt to do lip sync. It doesn't work. I mean, South Park looks competent at that point. So it gets 2 chairs from me.
All right, that's 2 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Up next is Control, and I've apparently gone full bit of foot again. So, Ven, why don't you tell us about
this? This is so metal. I mean, this is actually entertaining. We have the X-Clone controller, which we have here. And this is the first time that I've had to use it in conjunction with a keyboard and the gerbil to get through a tutorial, because I forgot to disable. There's a little button, and I was like, why is that there? And it says disable controller input. I was like, oh, we'll never need that. You apparently do if you want to get through the tutorial, also known as the beginning of the game, if you want to be able to complete that. Once you do that, it's all right. But unfortunately, sorting the controls so you can play it with the keyboard in your gerbil allows you to use them. And apparently the Devil's Son is made of Teflon and Parkinson's. I mean, I'm sorry. That is an insult to anyone with Parkinson's disease. They control better than this game does. I guarantee
Sick
it.
burn.
Michael J. Fox would like a word
You
with
can forget about doing anything that remotely requires precision or anything along those lines. Press E to drag should be renamed to press E to imprint upon a young chick, because it will follow you around. And you're just like, I am not your father. Leave me alone. And
You're not my real dad.
It's just quite a bit of a mess. So I'm going to give that 2 chairs, son.
Oh yeah, I ran into that issue with the controller that Ven mentioned, except I couldn't get it to go away. So I had to play the entire thing on the Steam controller, which the default bindings for the Xbox 360 controller on there make absolutely fuck all sense. I spent about 30 minutes trying to get something workable. In short, you gotta remap the throw button to the right trigger, switch the touchpad mode to mouse joystick, and keep the sensitivity on medium in-game. And it's actually playable with the Steam controller. It's a little difficult when it comes to precision stuff. I'll get to the whole the defibrillator tag in the fun section. But I mean, yeah, this entire thing is a mess. Key bindings don't work. The mouse goes all Michael J. Fox. I actually restarted my computer to ensure that there were no controllers actually detected by the operating system, and I still got the herky jerk. That's pretty bad, but at least it's playable, so it gets 2 chairs. If it just didn't work out right, it would have gotten 1. So
Yeah, I didn't run into that issue that both Ven and Jordan did, nor did I have to disable the Shield controller, which was plugged into the PC the whole time that I was playing this game. What I did have to wrestle with was the camera controls. The camera gets caught on the strangest parts of the scenery and the wandering NPCs, which means, more often than not, you'll get some serious jerkiness, and it's just generally horrible to look at. If you have epilepsy, do not, and I repeat, do not play this game, because the camera will go from a brightly lit area to like the darkness of a cell, because you're looking in a certain angle and the door to the cell is right there and the camera clips through it. It's not pretty. It's really not pretty. So it gets 3 chairs from me on a technicality, because I didn't have that issue that both Ben and Jordan did.
all right, so that's 2 chairs for the controls, and finally we got the funds. Ben, you played 6 hours. You played 7 hours of this game.
I did, Brad. I did, and you absolutely must. If you were psychotic enough to pick this up, even on sale, you must power through the useless tutorial, since there's a semi-functional game hiding behind it. But we do need to address a few things. I mean, you genuinely heal by flushing toilets.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you do.
And the save states, luck of the fuck mothering draw. Well, you know, my last save state where I couldn't find some keys, I think Jordan will bring up the same type of event. And I respawned and all the NPCs were back, but I'd used everything to kill them all to death. And I was like, okay, how do I finish this? And I finally just had to revert. But speaking of those NPCs, I genuinely believe they tried to put them on rails, but they completely flipped the fuck out. And it was like, all right, AI, yeah, we're calling it that. And to quote from the game, quote unquote, create your truly own unique traps by using complex combination systems and various tools.
Yeah, these people can't English very well.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no. Not with your busted-ass control system, son. More often than not, you'll end up shock fishing. This is what I've named it. That's where you're holding out a charged defib paddle, and, you know, just, you leave your character there, and you move out to the kitchen, the living room, whatever. Then you just, you know, crank everything up, and it's like, bzzz, and it's like, oh, I got one. And you come back in and you deal with that. That said, you can genuinely kind of tell that they wanted really wanted to pull off something quite neat. I mean, just look at the attention to detail, the graphical fidelity in the first room. Take a long, hard look, because that's the only time you will ever see it in this entire fucking game, is that first room. I made it to the town, and it's kind of like the halfway point in the game, and it's busted. I mean, it cannot hit over 30 FERPs, and it suffers the Doctor Who blocks, graphical glitches, and all that. And this is full metal bird culture, aka a dick move, since I'm now 7 now, in the game, and it's effectively unplayable, non-refundable. However, this is the point where I normally say something complimentary about the game. So, let me have a go. I fully understand that the developers are actively attempting to sort the busted pile of nope. I mean, even last Thursday, they made an update. But until they overhaul the graphics, fix the physics, sort the controls, improve the performance, hammer out the graphical glitches, and make saving reliable, you might do a better to go and play in traffic than buy this fucking game. That's kind of all I gotta say about that. So can you imagine this? One chair.
Seriously, toilets. Like, you go to the men's room to recover health, and you go to the ladies' room to recover mana. You don't get them at the same time. You always have to go to the two separate toilets.
That's sexist.
Which just completely boggles my mind. The AI is just so busted in this. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get you, blah, blah, blah. A door. I don't understand this door technology. Oh, where was I? I'm gonna keep walking. Yeah. I actually ran into a game-breaking bug in the first hospital level.
Yep.
You see, I went and killed everyone on that floor, all the mental patients, all the doctors, all the nurses, all the security guards, and apparently a set of keys didn't spawn. I actually spent the better part of an hour doing the gone home thing of picking up all the items that I could find, sticking them in a room, flushing, like dropping all the dead bodies down an elevator shaft so that there was no way in hell that I could miss the keys if they were there. Nothing. They did not spawn. I actually went and looked up a walkthrough. I'm like, okay, how do I get the keys to free your little partner dude from his cell? Oh, you just killed that guy? I fucking killed him. There was no keys. What the hell? And at that point, I'd actually have to go restart the game to pick up. So I'm like, all right, I'm not that far into the game. And then I got hit with the tutorial again, and I'm like, yeah, fuck this. I get what this game is trying to do. It is actually a very neat concept. I don't think I've ever seen it approached in games before. But the game is just busted to the point of unplayability. The controls don't work. The graphics are just completely fucked. I threw a pill bottle once and it hung in midair. And when I went to take a screenshot of it, then the physics kicked in and they're like, nope, no, we don't let you capture that kind of fuckery. I mean, it gets some points for originality, but effort just doesn't cut it in the CHAIRQUISITION. It's do or die, one chair.
Yeah, I hate these kinds of games. It's not the genre and it's not the premise. I mean, you're playing as the son of the devil. That's great. It's a game. It's basically a Rube Goldberg machine. Whatever. It's basically a Rube Goldberg machine with semi-human interaction. That's fine. I don't mind that. I just hate mediocre games. You can rail on this game for its technical shortcomings, poor optimization, shitty voice acting, and the awful camera controls, but the game itself is competent enough to work. It's just nothing spectacular to be, worthy of praise in any way. I didn't like the game, but I didn't exactly hate it either. What I hate is that I can't effectively criticize it without seeming like I'm picking at the nits. It's that kind of game. It's nothing to write home about, but it's nothing to hate on about, and I hate that. I really do. It's the conundrum that is Pedro Mateos. So one chair for me.
All right, that's a one chair for fun. And if we total this mess, this nightmare fuel up, we get one chair for the total score. Then, what are your final thoughts?
But, I mean, these lot actually made killing people to death boring. Yes, Brad. Yes, you did. And, you know, I like some sick-ass humor. Come on, this is LinuxGameCast, really? But look at some of the fucking achievements. There's an MJ achievement if you touch 4 children. I'm like, you know...
YOLO swag, bitch.
I'm just saying... I got a line at some fucking point. And I was like, guys, I mean, I understand you're trying to be humorous, but... Not cool. Not cool.
Yeah, and it's not that it was boring, it's that the whole game felt like a chore. When I'm playing a video game, I don't want it to feel like a chore. If I want to do chores, I'll just get up and do chores.
You'll just listen to Dory, yes.
Oh! It's totally looking to listen to this review,
I have to do the dishes, I have to do everything else. It's just, if I want to play a game, I want some escapism, and this game does not provide it. It's a fucking chore. No, do not get this game.
And again, like I said, I see what this game is trying to do, but the core mechanics are not very well implemented. All the text that describes how the various items interact is super fucking tiny. You have to go up and squint your eyes on a 1080p monitor. Designing the Rube Goldberg machines are not really that interactive. Oh, this thing goes there and then it explodes.
Well, that's one of the things that genuinely pissed me off. I mean, I was looking at it, I was like, you can create these elaborate traps. And I was like, no, you can't.
No, you move the nitrous bottles in front of them, and then you light them on fire.
You're going to nuke people with those bottles, you're going to nuke them with a fishing defibrillator, or you're going to poison them with a nope sandwich. And that's fucking it. And I am so sick of fucking developers. I mean, like I said, when we started this off, they either did not test this, because by the time you get to chapter 3, the game is completely unplayable. On a 980, it cannot sustain 30 frames per second.
On an i7 with a 980, it can. That's even worse, because this is supposed to be the standard platform that you fuckers are developing for. Again, it's... You get points for effort, but if you can polish this turd to the point where it's playable, I will totally give this another shot. Because I totally get what you're doing. It's an interesting gameplay mechanic. But
as what Fen said, that they don't get any points for effort because they didn't put any fucking effort in. Yeah. As far as the whole game is concerned, they just clicked export when it came to the Linux version.
They've just been waiting for an LGC train of fuck-mothering honesty to roll by and go, we got some really high-end systems and your game's a piece of shit, son.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Son of Stan, this is not up next. We got a big-ass hate mail segment. And Pedro will finally dock with Orn. It's going to be sexy.
999, even when I do handstands.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the hate mail. It's the one time of the LGC weekly show that we do that I only put some effort in. Well, I try anyway. If you don't know how to get in touch with us at this point, what the hell are you doing with your life? LinuxGameCast contact button, fill the form. It's easy, unless, of course, you try to promote your game, at which point, if you don't send us keys or a playable build of your game that we can futz around with, we're going to make fun of you. So, let's get on to it. First one, the Duke.
Duke sucks. Mario.
Just Hitler. Oh, you audio listeners, stop right there. Go to this point in like the YouTube video because this is brilliant. Okay, this is from Mario. He's talking about eDuke. He says, "Hi, I've tried to compile the eRampage binary for Linux the exact same way that you did, but it will not successfully compile. Maybe the source is not okay anymore, or maybe it's trying to annex Poland. Who knows? I also need the GOG files. No problem. Erg Mario."
Well, Mario, Duke still sucks, but that guide is terribly out of date. I mean, it's from like 3 years ago. I'll tell you what, I'll take the Pepsi challenge with you. You tell me where it fails, how it fails, and I'll get back with you on maybe something like that. I mean, because this is not Windows, Brad. I mean, I just can't give you...
The how-tos are already good for a year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get... What he's asking for is an executable, and I just can't build that, and you can't expect that to fuck mothering work. But good on you for wanting to continue playing Redneck Rampage. Up next,
we have some NWN with docking. So if you've been paying attention to Linux game...
Pablo.
Pedro.
Yeah. If you've been paying attention to LinuxGameCast.com this week, you may have noticed that a little how-to that I wrote went up on the site, and it shows you how to get Neverwinter Nights native, the native Linux version working under current
it's almost like 12
distributions.
hours later that it showed up in Lutris.
Yeah. Amazingly.
I know.
But we'll get to that in a couple of seconds.
Okay.
It's just that Pablo says that, hey guys, I saw Pedro's post about compiling Neverwinter Nights for Linux. Thanks, man. I put together a Docker image to automate the process. There's the GitHub link. For now, it compiles for Ubuntu only. I'll try to add support for Arch and Fedora. Or maybe some audience member can send their PRs for that.
Please
Cheers,
note,
Pablo.
on the GitHub page, please note, Lutris, it's French.
Yeah, he added that now. Yeah, I saw his post. He made a post on our Linux_gaming, and then Strider was like, yeah, I made a Lutris installer for that. It makes it much easier. And he's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, you did. But, Pablo, you may want to be careful, though. We might just start calling you the doc master instead of Orn. Yeah.
I want to see a dock off between Pedro and Orn. I think that would be a good thing. So Pablo, I think we're moving on to the next hate mail, and that's Order. This is from Oscar. He says, "What is the deal with Rocket League? I also got it through my pre-order of the Steam controller, and we're still waiting for the Linux compatible." Yeah, so is Ben. So are a lot of people who pre-ordered the Steam controller with the expectation that Rocket League would be available on Linux by the time Steam machines have released. This is more fallout from the botched Steam machine launch. Pedro, you saw something in the Steam community that indicated that it's going to be out by the end of the year?
Yes, my first response to this was dick and all for all we know, but then I went to their Steam forums and I saw a post from one of the devs in their Linux thread, or the most recent one anyway. There's like 5 of those. But yeah, he said that hopefully before December 31st. So you got that to look forward to, I suppose.
I don't know.
I want to play this
I'm
game.
definitely looking at this because this is based on Unreal Engine 3, and I mean, you could at least give that to Ryan C. Ickybutts, and it'll run like complete ass, horribly unoptimized, but he can port it. And
I was going to say, what do you think the over/under is on them actually meeting their promise of getting it before January 31st? You want to?
Well, they kind of fucked up the promise. Well, all right, maybe not technically a promise, but I mean, when somebody says, "Hey, you're getting a copy of this game," technically they gave you a copy of the game for the wind blows, but that's not kind of what I was expecting when I ordered a Steam machine, Brad, or a Steam controller. Huh?
No,
Steam machines
I don't know. If you had to put
Windows.
money on it, though, if you had to put money on it, do you think these guys could get it out before year's end?
You know, I think they can. I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago we had that snafu situation normal all fucked up. They're like, oh, we're getting ready to roll it out in the Windows and all that. And then the Linux showed up in the depot and it was never populated and they pulled it 2 hours later. And I was like, I kind of want to know the story behind that, Brad. I'd be more interested.
My guess is they probably had some serious issues, and if they pushed
that was the same day they pushed out that Windows patch that even broke wine support.
Yeah, it's if they pushed it out at that point, it probably would have resulted in a stream of refunds, and they didn't want that. So we'll have to see what kind of a port it is. I know what you're implying, Ven, but I want to see it first.
Brought to you by Virtual Programming. Up next!
Miguel
Next, we have
Sale.
Miguel.
He talks about the 450 US wet stinky Dell Alienware Steam machine is not selling well, question mark. I think they will have to be at retail stores and make some ads starting console players. I do not think this bad press I have read would ever arrive to console players. My poor brain. And real benchmarking Xbox versus PS4 versus SMS price performance for games. They share at the same resolutions plus game prices. Comparisons has not been made
Comparisons.
yet, or I have.
What he said was comparisons.
Comparisons, or I have not read it. Brad, what I think you're trying to communicate. What I think you're trying to communicate, which I completely agree with, is... Alright, first of all, we got to understand, the Steam machines were never marketed. Nobody tried to market them outside of the people who went through the trouble, the companies that invested the money to build this shit, put it together, and get ready to ship it. And, Steam and Valve, they were like, yeah, whatevs. And they're like, oh, what? Weren't you guys supposed to support this? It doesn't matter. It's kind of the portrayal in the press. The press is like, well, this is a computer you put. And I was like, no, this is a console. How does this compare against an Xbox or PS4? And you got to look at, this is a new platform. What did the PS4 launch at? Like $6.99, some shit like that.
The PS4 launched at $400.
You also have to. The other thing you have to consider, though, is that it's tricksy to get reliable performance stats from the Xbox or the PlayStation 4 because it's a black box. You can approximate the graphical fidelity.
You
level
can
on
actually
PC
use
versus-
frame rating from HDMI output, so you can get an actual frame
Alright,
pacing from
well,
it.
I meant in
you
terms of
can
like
get an
actual settings.
readout. But
Or, like,
No,
settings
no,
like shadows,
Jordan, what I'm
graphical
saying is I
quality.
completely agree with you.
Yep.
They don't want you to, but you can do
Yep.
it.
You can do
But-
it. It's just you're not going to be able to get a reliable comparison with PC because you can't
the thing
physically
is,
lock the settings.
even
in place.
if you were to compare like the game that everyone uses, which is Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of Mordor in Linux runs like ass when compared to Windows. But that game didn't just come out for SteamOS and Windows. It also came out for the consoles. It came out for PlayStation 3, it came out for PlayStation 4, it came out for the Xbox 360, it came out for the Xbox One. Yeah.
and
if you were
part
to
of that
co-
has to do with
If you No. If you were to compare apples to apples, like the consoles that are the Steam machines, even the Alienware Alpha to the Xbox One or the PS4, which are the current generation consoles, you're getting a higher frame rate out of the Alienware Alpha on Shadow of Mordor on Ultra than you would get on whatever GIMP resolution you're getting on one of the current gen consoles.
The other thing you have to consider as well is the fact that because of Valve's failure to market this properly, people are going to view it as a computer. They're going to compare it to other computers as opposed to consoles because, again, while it is marketed as a console product, when people
But that's the
think Steam,
thing.
they think PC
It
gaming.
isn't marketed. It hasn't been marketed at all. Not to console players, not to PC players. Nobody.
Yes.
If we're honest,
Well, it's kind of like it's just like such a reverse thing because, when the Xbox and the PS4 came out, they're like, yes, we got PCs just like you guys. And now that you have something in a console form factor, like, we're consoles. It's different now. Things, reasons.
It's
And
the same
if we're
argument with
being
old
honest-
generation Macs
if we're
and
being
PCs.
honest,
Everything is
the
Intel based. Everything is
non-marketing
x86 based. That's it.
the non-marketing thing kind of worked for Steam itself, but the Steam machines aren't a free bit of software that you can use and forget about it, that it's sitting on your hard drive just holding your games hostage. The Steam machines are a piece of furniture. It's something that you display on your living room and everyone gets to see it. I think Valve should call up IKEA and have them give a few tips on how to market this stuff.
You know, the last thing
some of you feel bad about the
need
Steam machine. It's because you're crazy.
with a Steam machine is a fuck-mothering Allen wrench. And on that bombshell, let's cue the music, because you can always find us around 9:30 EDT, Standard Moon Time. I'm at Vinstone on the Twitter. That's G++ Vinstone. Check it out. It's awesome.
I'm Jordan Swung. You can find me educating people about time zones on Twitter at The Burning Fool or plus Jordan Swung on the Google Plus on Eastern Standard. EDT's in the summer.
I am Pedro Mateus. You can always find me butchering the English language right here on Saturday nights or on
Not as bad as Miguel.
Accounted for on Twitter or plus Pedro Mateus on Google Plus. Fuck you, Jordan.
And just remember, it's not all about the Lucius Cox. It's about the MJ achievement, where you need to touch 5 dudes?
Five mini
children.
dudes. They're
5 children.
They're smaller.
It actually says on the achievement.
Wait,
Touch 5 children.
Whoa, what if you just touch 5 dudes?
Then
You're
Yeah.
just a really kinky guy I'd like to spend the night with.
Not really, considering you're playing a child. I mean, you're kind of a perverted little devil child. It's like, yeah, 5 dudes.
He's asking for it. Those children have to stop being so sexy. 5 dudes.